have George Scorsis here, who's the CEO of Liberty Health. George, thanks for joining us again.
Thanks for having me.
George, you guys are putting out a press release this afternoon, which we're not going to talk about yet. I'm not going to say anything till I see it cross the wire. But before we talk about that, give us an update. What's happening in Florida?
Florida's just panned out to be exactly what we thought it was going to be. It's growing at a rate of 3,000 patients a week, one of the fastest growing markets in the U.S. From our standpoint, we continue to grow. We're up to 5 dispensaries. We offer 24-hour delivery all across the state. You know, it's about accessibility to us. We want to be the leader with medical, but with that, we've also moved into and almost fully complete our 250,000 square foot greenhouse that we acquired a few months ago. So, yeah, things are moving well.
Did you ship that down from Leamington?
No, but some of the know-how for sure.
Yeah, sure. So, you know, there's a lot going on, and the market's really frothy right now, even though it's summer. Everybody thought the sky was falling in the last week, but the whole sector's turned around today. And in your impression, what do you think how much of that do you think is related to what's going on in the U.S.? I mean, it's interesting because all of the shenanigans going on the massive geopolitical presidential side are really having no effect on the advancement incrementally of cannabis legislation in the U.S. And so, I mean, do you see that, you know, that's not a reversible course, is it?
No, I think what you're going to see is an easing of the regulatory environment. McConnell's coming out with the hemp farming bill, which is going to allow CBD to flow quite openly from state to state. I think there's going to be other transactions that happen beyond that, but I do believe that we're going to see a better regulatory environment for banking, for medical. And I just think you're going to continuously see more confidence in what's happening in the U.S. and more investors really liking what's happening in the U.S. environment and putting more money into that market versus it being so exclusively about Canada and the international marketplace. I think the U.S. will really be a platform that people look at.
Yeah, you bet. So then in Florida, what's the patient sort of flow look like in terms of how fast are they onboarding patients into the system?
Yeah, so 130,000 patients is where we're at today. We're seeing patients come into the system. On average, takes about a week to get into the system. Drastic change from when we first started, but we're continuously seeing an improvement from the regulators. I think they really want to work with accessibility, and that's been our platform. How do we give more accessibility to patients? How do we give higher quality product? And that's Liberty's commitment.
Sure. Okay, so then is it going to be like California where there's also going to be ultimately a recreational market?
Well, in 2020 the bill comes up. At this point, I still think it's going to remain medical. Florida has a vibrant medical system, and I just don't see it transitioning that fast yet.
Right. Your stock's on a bit of a tear over the last couple of sessions, up, call it 15%, and is that in anticipation of, what's the moving parts that are happening between your company and Aphria?
Yeah, I think, we have always gone to the marketplace, and there's been no disillusion that, Aphria has provided us with the IP, the know-how, but we are 2 separate companies. But with that, down the road, there could be a situation that the regulatory environment completely changes and allows for investment from TSX listed companies or New York Stock Exchange companies that allows for ownership or greater ownership in American companies. And I would say that although we are distant cousins, we do share a lot of the same philosophies. And with that being said, it's a perfect opportunity for them to enter downstream into the U.S.
Sure. Okay. So I'm going to go way out on the forward-looking statement limb here, and you just shut me down if you want. But it sounds to me like Aphria and Liberty Health are trying to make very clear to the market that until something changes, Liberty is going to move forward in the U.S. market, and ultimately Aphria will have the benefit of Liberty Health's progress.
Well, that's exactly it. I would say that I'm quite confident that Aphria will instill a certain level of messaging to the marketplace over the next few months that we are their horse.
Right.
And ultimately, the bigger we grow, the better it is for Aphria downstream. This is about IP and know-how right now, but it'll be about a lot more in the future if Aphria is able to invest heavier into Liberty.
Yeah, you bet. So I would assume then that there's probably a lot of irons in the fire in the United States that are at various stages of evolution that we probably can't talk about too much. But it's now markets closed. I know you're issuing a press release tonight. Is it okay to talk about it at this point?
Yeah, we can talk about it. You telegraphed almost perfectly a few moments ago in the sense that we have just arranged for a lockup of a transaction that was to take place, which is the next tranche that Aphria was to dilute. It's roughly 16 million shares. It was going to bring them from 24% ownership of Liberty Health Sciences to 19%. The transaction will still take place to a third party, but that third party will now be set in a lockup arrangement for the next 18 months with the opportunity for Aphria to purchase it back at a later point. And I think, again, what that really shows is that Aphria does have an interest in Liberty. It does have an interest in the U.S. And it's an opportunity for them to hold a very, very strong position in Liberty for the future.
Yeah. Okay, so that's it's kind of like a bit of a trend among Canadian LPs. I mean, we saw Aurora do an interesting transaction with a warrant and sort of divesting itself superficially of control over its formerly U.S. subsidiary Australis, and yet the transaction that resulted makes it very clear that this is still very much controlled by Aurora shareholders. The same thing is now seems to be happening with Aphria, and I mean, at the end of the day, it's like this is LHS is the Aphria play.
Well, you would think so, right?
Yeah.
And it's here's the realities of the industry. The TSX right now has made it very challenging for people to work within the U.S. and to invest in the U.S., especially some of the larger LPs in Canada. So people are getting creative. And I don't want to say that there's manipulation in the marketplace, but they are getting creative. The U.S. will be the largest market in the world. There is no doubt. And for any of the larger LPs to not participate, I think would be a little bit foolish at this point.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, so this lockup is with a third party who it's disclosed in the press release, and these guys are big shareholders in Aphria.
Yeah, one of our largest shareholders outside of Aphria, and they've shown a consistent commitment to the business, and I think this actually reinforces their commitment. They were willing to participate with Aphria in securing this lockup at a nominal amount, and again, we have very, very good shareholders, but Aphria does want to position themselves for the future.
Yeah, okay, well that's fantastic, George. We'll leave it there for now. We'll come back to you in due course. Thanks very much for your time today.
Thanks a lot.